Now, the prices of liquefied petroleum gas, popularly known as cooking gas across Nigeria, continues on the upward trend despite significant increases in local production of the product. The product local production, according to the defunct Petroleum Product Price and Regulatory Agency report on LPG supplied, showed an increase of 49,453.081 metric tons in the month of September this year, recording an increment of 23% in the month of August. Notwithstanding the remarkable growth performance and Nigeria's vast gas reserves pegged at 206.53 trillion cubic feet, the price of cooking gas keeps on rising with no sign of abating as current challenges causing the price are yet to be attended to. Against this backdrop, appropriate gas pricing structure has remained one of the critical challenges affecting Nigeria's developing domestic gas market, making it one of the industry players' issues that seeks urgent address to issues around bordering on a price regime that also allows the market to determine the price of gas in line with the basic global principle of willing buyer and willing seller model. Now, to discuss this and much more, I have joining me virtually energy advisor and partner, Bloomfield Law Practice, Dr. Ayodele Oni. Good to have you on the show this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, let's first of all look at the bigger scope of gas now. Nigeria has, in the first 152 days of this year, fled about 85.4 billion standard cubic feet of natural gas. This is translated to about a monetary loss of about $510 million, roughly 209 billion naira. Averaging about 3% of funding to host communities in this year's Petroleum Industry Act. Let's look at the goals of the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program and the conversations about whether or not we have recorded successes in the country.
Okay, thank you very much. The idea behind the gas flare commercialization program is to ensure that rather than flare gas, you can use same. Recall, like you said, we are top 10 amongst the top 10 countries in the world in terms of our gas reserves. But you know, it's not sufficient that you have gas reserves, because you cannot put gas straight from the ground into your vehicles or use it for cooking. You still need to process gas. And when you process gas, you've got, of course, gas, you've got primarily methane. Then if it's that's dry gas. For wet gas, you've also got other gas compounds like butane and propane, usually used for cooking. And you've got octane and you've got other compounds. So if you do not process sufficient quantity of gas, then you fall into this problem. One. Secondly, if the commercial arrangement isn't good enough, despite the volumes of gas, a lot of people would rather flare gas than expend cost to develop infrastructure if they can't make profits from same. So that's where we have been, and then that's why the government thought about a really brilliant idea to give companies the right to go to flare points to take the flare gas and then use it particularly for midstream and downstream projects like cooking gas, fertilizer, and all of those. The process is ongoing. I don't think it's complete yet. That's why we haven't seen a lot of progress in terms of having those licenses go to the flare point to take flare gas to reduce the volume of gas flared. It's a sad situation, because in terms of gas flaring, I think I was doing some research a while ago and I realized that the gas flared in Nigeria can power a country like Trinidad and Tobago for a whole year, can power their economy for a whole year. So yes, the government is doing a lot in terms of policy. We haven't seen a lot of the results because some of the processes haven't reached a conclusion yet.
Dr. Oni, I like the fact that you make mention of the fact that this is still a work in progress. But looking at the commercialization program for gas flaring in the country, our rate as at January this year was pegged at 7.73%. Some analysts still say the proceeds of this program is still going to remain elusive, irrespective of the fact that we are seeing gas prices improve on the international market. Do you share in this sentiment in the short to medium term?
Okay, in the short to medium term, I think that in the short term, I share this sentiment, but I think in the medium to long term, things should improve. Remember, we have a domestic gas supply obligation, where every gas producer is required to reserve a particular specific quantity for sale in the domestic market. So as long as you can have sale in the domestic market, then the international vagaries shouldn't impact as much as they would have, because as long as you continue to import a large quantity of the gas you use in the country, the international gas price is going to affect you. Remember also that your currency is getting devalued, so you wouldn't see those benefits in the short term until those projects come on stream. And infrastructure projects don't come on stream in 6 months or in 1 year. You'll be looking at a period of 2 to 4 years on the average for those projects to come on stream. So the international gas price issues and the vagaries of the market issues in North America and elsewhere in Europe, Russia, in Europe would affect us too, because we continue to import a large quantity of the gas we use in the domestic market. That's what the situation is. So I don't see things abating in the short term. The mid to long term.
Dr. Oni, now looking at taking decisive measures, now the biggest cry we have from the populace is the fact that we are seeing cooking gas price hikes at levels that are unfathomable for the average Nigerian. This also largely affects our gas penetration target. Now, as we speak today, we have a refill of about 12.5 kg running into about 10,000 naira. What sort of actions do you think we can take now or plan in terms of the development of a blueprint and implementation of the program like this gas flare commercialization? How do you see us cutting the cost measure here? Nigerians cannot continue to pay for more. The NLNG just provides about, say, 40% of what we consume in the country. The rest is imported. Hence, that value of inflation will continue to remain an external factor beyond our control. How do we bring down the cost of gas?
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, there are situations where we import more than 60%. I think in August we did over 77% of the LPG cooking gas used in Nigeria. So it's actually a problem as long as we don't produce enough. Now there are additional issues like the VAT challenge. Whilst there is the VAT order by the minister that takes cooking gas, midstream gas away from the purview of VAT, I understand that the FIRS continues to charge VAT, and of course it's going to trickle down. It's going to add 7.5% to that cost and even more, so those are the challenges. Also, the challenges you have at times at the port. The challenges, once demand exceeds supply, you would always see this. That's the first point. And as long as we continue to import, it will be a problem, because large quantities, if we continue to import 60 to 70% of our needs, because as the naira gets devalued, of course, what was $2, when $2 was 700 naira at some point, $2 is over 1,000 naira today. So that's also something you need to take into consideration. So even if other factors don't come to play, as long as you import and your currency continues to get devalued, you would continue to have this problem. What government can then do is to remove the other challenges within the country. The challenge of the VAT, the challenge of scarcity, and not ensuring that things move pretty quickly at the depot where people can get the gas and then supply. So once we can deal with the issue of scarcity, it would help us. The currency issue, I don't know, it's neither here nor there. There have been issues or discussions around floating the naira and all of that. So first thing, reduce imports, ensure that you flood the market with gas, because government has the gas penetration program. So if you have the gas penetration program and you want more people to use gas, it then means that the demand will increase. If demand increase and you do not match demand with supply, you will continue to have this sort of problem. So it's matching supply, ensuring that we process more. We're number 9, number 10 in the world in terms of our gas reserves. We need to be able to process more to use for the domestic market. Otherwise, we will continue to have this challenge.
And do you think government clearly understands this challenge, the ratio of availability versus affordability?
Well, I think government does. There are many very brilliant people in government, particularly advisors, and it's at times matching policy with politics at times, ensuring that policy plays a more important role than politics. That's the first point. Second point is also that when you've had a challenge for several years and you don't deal with it, matters continue to get worse. So I wouldn't lay the fault squarely with the current administration. So we've had this challenge for a while, and not enough has been done from year to year to ensure an improvement. And I believe quite a bit is being done now. The year 2021 to 2030 been declared as the years have been declared as the decade of gas. Yeah. So a lot is being done to ensure that as you push for penetration, you also want to ensure that more investors in the midstream and downstream segment get involved. So once you see more people process, once you see more processing, because it's when you process wet gas that you have your cooking gas, butane and propane. In this part of the world, we use more butane. In colder regions, it's more propane with some butane. So I think as government encourages more people, the commercial arrangement makes more sense. People have an obligation to reserve more quantity of gas for processing, for use in the country. Businessmen want to make money. Once the commercial arrangement makes sense, you will see a lot of people come in to develop the infrastructure, the certainty. The Petroleum Industry Act 2 does play a crucial role now, because no one wants to invest in an uncertain environment, regulatory environment, where if you invest an amount, you don't even know how long it will take you to recover your sunk cost and make a margin. But now that the Petroleum Industry Act is effective, people can be fairly certain and can do their models or modeling to know how they'll recover whatever they invest and make returns based on the existing legal and regulatory regime. So I think government is doing quite a bit, and much more can be done in terms of policy and enforcement, and ensuring that you see the policy to the end, and then politics doesn't play a bigger or a more important role than policy.
And how now do you see the Petroleum Industry Act, which you just made mention of now, help us to perfect the transition process? Now, the global conversation remains global net zero emissions, particularly looking at multilateral agencies in Western countries trying to stop the planned defunding of gas projects in developing countries. Now, with the implementation of the PIA, how do you see this also changing the narrative, speeding up our process, our transition process to cleaner energy? And how do you see this also taking a footing in Nigeria, net zero target emissions?
Okay, I understand that the president did mention at the climate event a few days ago that by 2060 we'll reach net zero. For those who don't know what that is, it means the carbon emissions will be equal to what's taken off the atmosphere or the environment, to ensure that there's a net zero effect. So that if you pass on a particular quantity of carbon into the atmosphere, the same quantity is being taken off. So we have our own targets for 2060 based on what the president has said. A few other countries have got an earlier time. Now, our own situation in the world is a bit peculiar, particularly in the less developed or the developing world, because we are resource rich, we are carbon rich, and government's policy is to make gas our transition fuel. I guess that's part of the reasons why we're looking at 2060. I have a slightly different view around net zero. I think that the Western world needs to take into consideration the fact that many of the less developing countries rely on hydrocarbons to be able to make any headway. So we will catch up with the rest of the world, but I think we should take our time. I don't know if you saw some data making rounds recently about countries like Canada, part of Europe, China, US, using even more gas than the less developed world, and it was said to be an irony that those are the countries pushing for net zero and decarbonization, and yet they use much more gas. And part of my argument always is that if you look at the industrial revolutions, you find out that coal and dirty fuel played key roles for industrialization. We haven't even reached that level. So I think we shouldn't rush into it like the Western world. They've achieved some measure of industrialization and development. We need to get close to those before. Whilst of course we think about it, but I think 2060 is more realistic than a 2035 or a 2040 or even 2050. I think gas in particular, hydrocarbons, particularly gas, will continue to play a key role in our energy resources. I think anywhere from 40 to 50% for gas, even up to the year 2060, 2070, maybe even up to 2080 and beyond. It's a cleaner form of hydrocarbons compared to crude. And my view is just that we shouldn't rush with the Western world and ensure we achieve development to the extent that natural gas can take us, natural gas in particular. And I hear your point around it's being more difficult to assess financing for hydrocarbons projects. It's more difficult, but it's not impossible. And of course, we need to think outside the box as to how we can, the more creative financing methods beyond just reaching out to the Western world each time we need financing. I think that's another point, from taxation, from improving doing business in the country, because as there are more businesses, more people become prosperous, you can achieve much more from taxation. You can achieve much more from whether it's personal income tax, whether it's companies income tax, similar to what government is doing with road infrastructure, where you can use what would have been your taxation to build roads and net off your tax. So I think it requires it requires giving it more thought beyond just running with the Western world.
Okay, now, Dr. Oni, we are wrapping up our conversation, and you also made mention of funding as well. Looking at the fact that in August we had reports that the federal government had already commenced the implementation of the Central Bank of Nigeria's 250 billion naira intervention fund for the National Gas Expansion Program. Just like we are also looking at the gas flaring commercialization program, the question is, when will we start having proceeds? When will we start seeing reports? That remains the biggest question for the average Nigerian. Would it be right or wrong to put a timeline to all of these?
Well, nothing really is absolute, but I'll say give it the next 48 months. If I was to hazard a guess based on the information I have and being involved in some of the transactions, I'd say give it 48 months. I wouldn't want to be more optimistic than that. I think anywhere from 48 months, we'll begin to see improvement. Because first, when you even speak about the commercial arrangement, you also want to ensure that you've got enough demand in country before people begin to expend or sink cost or capex. So I think give it 48 months. A combination of all of these policies and proper implementation with the right advisors is a step in the right direction, and I think we will see progress.
Well, the future of the energy sector in Nigeria is gas. We'd like to see how the government also helps to put the best foot forward in terms of taking shape, the implementation of the PIA, looking at all of those programs as well, helping to redefine and also help us have concerted efforts to see that the cost of energy is brought down to a minimal. It has to be affordable in the country. Thank you very much once again for your time on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Oni.